Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Ballava Girivardhari. Gopi Ballava Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vrajadana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajadana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajikacharya Asto Tavasada Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Kishore Kishore Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Srimati Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to the some devotees. All glories, Sri Sri Guru and Garanga. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So it's less people than yesterday, so maybe you can all, unless you're sitting on the bench, move up a little bit closer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we don't have it on the sign, but I think most of you have phones, so you can gather around on your devices. They say, right? They don't say phones these days. They say on your device. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 63, entitled Lord Krishna Fights with Banasura, Text 39. Yataiva surya pihitaschaya yasvayaha chayam charupani cha sancha kasti evam gune apihito gunam stvam atma padipo kininascha bhumam yataiva surya pihitaschaya yasvaya Chayam charupani cha sancha kasti. Evam gune apihito gunam stvam. Atma pradipo guninascha bhumam. Yataiva surya pihitaschaya svaya. Chayam charupani cha sanka kasti. Evam gune apihito gunam stvam. Atma pradipo guninascha bhumam. Word meanings. And keep in mind, this is Lord Shiva glorifying Lord Krishna. So each word is particularly, especially important, understanding that context. Yata eva, just as. Suryaha, the sun. Pihitaha, covered. Chayaya, by the shade. Svaya, its own. Chayam, the shade. Cha, and. Rupani, visible forms. Cha, also. Sanchakasti, illuminates. Evam, similarly. Gunena, by the material quality of false ego. Apihita, covered. Gunan, the qualities of matter. Tvam, you. Atma pradipaha, self-luminous. Guninaha, the possessors of these qualities, the living entities. Cha, and. Bhuman, O Almighty One. Translation. O Almighty One, just as the sun, though hidden by a cloud, illuminates the cloud and all other visible forms as well, so you, although hidden by the material qualities, remain self-luminous and thus reveal all those qualities along with the living entities who possess them. This is a very deep point, actually. I don't remember this analogy so much given in other places, but Lord Shiva is really enlightening us. So we'll read it a little slow and think about it carefully. O Almighty One, so Shiva is addressing the Lord, O Almighty One, just as the sun, though hidden by a cloud, so we can all picture this as a description, right? Just as we have the sun here today, not hidden by a cloud, but we know what that means often, illuminates the cloud and all other visible forms as well. Right? We all know that, right? Even sometimes you can't see the sun. It's there, but it's hidden from us. But still, the cloud itself is bright, and everything else has got light because the sun's there, even though we don't see it. So he says, so you, although hidden by material qualities, remain self-luminous, right? Like the sun, right? Luminant is still there. And thus reveal all those qualities, along with the living entities who possess them. So it's about seeing Krishna behind the veil of illusion. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here Lord Shiva further clarifies the idea expressed in the final two lines of the previous verse. The analogy of the clouds and the sun is appropriate. With its energy, the sun creates the clouds, right? The sun evaporates the water and the clouds come, which cover our vision of the sun. Yet it is the sun that allows us to see the clouds and all other things as well. Similarly, the Lord expands His illusory potency and thus prevents us from seeing Him. Even though He's there, it's His own potency that allows us to not see Him behind the potency. Yet it is God alone who reveals to us His covering potency, namely the material world. And thus the Lord is Atma Pradipa, self-luminous. It is the reality of His existence that makes all things visible. Om Gyanantam Yandasha Janan Anjana Shalakaya Chakshus Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapanantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are very deep yet simple points given for help us out of our illusion. So we understand Vaishnava philosophy, not just Vaishnava philosophy, all the great spiritual religious traditions, they have some concept of either illusion or ignorance or forgetfulness. Everybody has that. They all say we're missing something. You know, Christians will say we've forgotten God, we've forgotten Jesus. And Buddhists will say we're illusioned by the material world, by desire. Other schools of thought, although I'm not quite sure, I was thinking about it the other day. Impersonalists, if I'm non different from God, if I'm a tiny spark, as we say, it's easy to understand how the spark can be covered or separate from the fire. But if I am the fire, how do I get covered? If I'm the fire. You know, they say, well, you have to merge again into, but how did I become separate and now? So that part doesn't make sense to me. But either way, they clearly have the concept that there's ignorance and illusion. And of course, as Vaishnavas, we're going very deep into this understanding of why there's so many difficulties in this world are completely and ultimately connected to the fact we've forgotten what our actual position is. You know, sometimes example is given. A man's walking down the road in the dark. We see this sometimes, all of us. Maybe at night, your eyes, you can't, first you lose the sense of color, and then you gradually lose the sense of shape, and then it just becomes completely dark. So sometimes they say there's a rope on the road, or maybe in Chicago, more common, there's some branch on the road. And you think, is that a branch or is that a snake? You think, no, it's a branch. And then it moves. Oh, it's a snake. We go, oh, it didn't move. Like yesterday, coming back from downtown, they have that big Ferris wheel. I don't know why. It's Sunday. Is it broken completely or what? Because we went by in the morning, it wasn't moving, and at night, it wasn't moving. It's broken, huh? Yeah. Yeah, Navy Pier. It just sits there like it's architecture now, right? It's not functioning. Because as we were driving by, I thought, I think it's moving. No, it's not moving. No, I think it's moving. Is it? But yesterday was a busy summer day. They didn't have it on. But just the same idea. My senses are so imperfect. I think I see it moving. No, it's not moving. Yes, it's moving. No, it's not moving. So, because we are infinitesimal, as described here and in yesterday's verse, because we're very small, that's the Vaishnava explanation, Krishna's explanation, that we're very small, material energy is very big, and even though we're of the superior nature, we're the conscious superior nature, we're superior to material nature, because it's Krishna's nature, because it's his energy, and it's so vast, we're covered, we're controlled. As it explains in the Bhagavad Gita, every living entity is born into delusion, overcome by desire and hate. Those two things. Desiring things of this material world that we think are attractive, and then overcome by things that we hate, we don't like because we think they're hurtful for us. Just like we see in this world. We learn so much from studying this world, as described here with the cloud. We see there's so much hatred in the world these days, so much. A lot of people talk about that. Why is there so much hatred? Well, there's hatred because there's competition over what is limited resources. Now, it says in the Upanishads and elsewhere, Krishna's provided everything we need. Right? Gandhi famously said, "There's enough for everyone's need. There's not enough for everyone's greed." Because the nature of greed is no matter how much I have, I want more. So there's never going to be enough for everybody's greed. But the material energy, by Krishna's arrangement, is providing sufficiently for our needs. But if one is forgetful of what we actually need, then we become greedy. And I may have a whole closet full of clothes, but then I see your closet, I want your closet too. I may have one car, but you have a newer car, I want a car like yours. And it's just like sometimes you see with children, they'll be playing with a toy, and they're very possessive of their toy, right? Little ones especially. Then they see another child's toy. They throw aside theirs, and they want that one. And they're ready to fight, right? They have the blue truck, but they want the red truck. As soon as they get the red truck, they see a yellow truck. They want the yellow truck. And and we look upon that as adults and think, oh, this is childish. Just, try to teach kids, be fair, share, right? Share, that's the big word for trying to get them to share. So trying to get little children to understand it, but we forget it as we get older. You have to share. But because we're thinking, no, the world's limited, therefore we come under desire and we come under hate. And we see the whole, living in Washington, D.C., particularly so aware of this. There's so much hatred. Used to be at least some sense of we compete, that we have different ideas how the country should be run. Now it's we not only have different ideas, I think you're bad. You're bad for the country. And you think I'm bad for the country. How can you cooperate with anybody if you think you're bad? And it just becomes gradually, the age of Kali becomes more and more animalistic. You see the animals, they're walking just like a carnivore, right? They're just walking through the forest and they see a mouse chomp. Like where we live, there's hawks come sometimes. They come down from above with their talons and they just grab whatever's there because they're carnivores and they just devour it. So people become more and more like carnivorous animals. I see other people as objects of my sense gratification. And therefore we see so much tension. One race tries to dominate another race. One country tries to dominate another country. One gender tries to dominate another. One species tries to dominate another. But it's all because we're forgetting what's our actual connection with Krishna. We're forgetting, people are forgetting, we're forgetting that actually my role is to be a cooperator with Krishna. And when I cooperate with Krishna, then I see everything can function harmoniously. And people want that. You know, the politicians, they say, elect me and I'll make us more prosperous and more peaceful. We'll be more secure. Say, we'll make you more secure. What does it mean to be secure? It means your property be secure, your happiness will be secure. But it's not actually possible to secure people's happiness in this world because it's so dangerously affected by time factor and by the nature of the world, is that everything is passing through time and everything is eventually be lost. So because we're forgetting our relationship with Krishna, because people are forgetting who they are, they walk out the door every morning thinking that today I have to compete with others, and if I don't compete, I'll be lost. Just like your business, right? Construction. Now, construction can be a pretty tough business. I know we had our business, we had some retail stores, and several times we had to, build our little 1,400, 1,200 square inside a big mall with 200,000 square feet. But if something went wrong and we had to have a discussion about the person next door, our contractor, their contractor, our project manager, their project manager, our subs, their subs, and everyone would argue. It's not my fault. It's your fault. You blew it. You screwed up. It's yours. Because basically meant whoever made the mistakes is going to have to pay more money. Because they're thinking the goal is to, most people, right? The goal is to maximize the profit. So if I have to step on your head to make a few more dollars, I will. Instead of sitting down and saying, okay, we have a problem here. I mean, sometimes I'm sure they do that, but oftentimes it doesn't become like that. Lawyers in the courts, very often, it's not so much sitting down. I know we had some situations I've seen, even with sometimes couples. It's sad it happens in the world and it happens in the ISKCON society as well. Sometimes marriages, they don't work out. After some period of time, the couples have to get divorced. They decide, look, I think you'll be happier there, I'll be happier here. And they can usually work out something reasonably until the lawyers get involved. The first thing the lawyer says is don't talk to her, don't talk to him. Everything has to go through me. And then it just becomes a big fight, in part because of the structure. The structure is generally attorneys get paid, they take a percentage. So the bigger the settlement, the bigger percentage they get. So it becomes very adversarial. And therefore the whole world is fighting. And people wonder, why is there so much fighting? Well, because we're buying into a mistaken conception that forces us to fight with one another, because the basic principle is wrong. So it's like, how many of you work with mathematics? Some math in your business, yeah, some math. So somebody starts out with the basic principle, somebody gives you a formula, and the very first one they figure 2 plus 2 equals 5. And then you work all day long on the rest of the formula based on that foundation. Is your number going to come out right? The whole thing's, you may have a very sophisticated system. So the world around us is a very sophisticated system. It's kind of amazing. I was just thinking about it yesterday. We're driving back from downtown. Of course, it's unpleasant because it's such a traffic jam. It took like twice as long to get back from the parade as it was to get down there. But it's fantastic systems. The six lane highways or 8 lane highways and so many beaches and this and that and so many nice things. That's all very nice. But then what are they doing at the beaches? They're having barbecues and they're killing other living entities. And you walk by and they're quarreling. Not all the time. There's some, good relationships, but oftentimes they're fighting, they're quarreling. Again, I want that toy, I want this one. Hey, you can't set your tent up here. We got here first. Why are you here? Why are you there? Or on the highway, they're cutting people off. Why? Because the basic foundation, even though it's so sophisticated, the society that's developed is so sophisticated, and as practitioners of bhakti, we don't condemn at all. We don't criticize. Prabhupada would often say, we're taking advantage of this microphone, but understand what it's connected to. Then it can be used properly. So in the same way, if the 2 + 2 = 5 foundational quotation is there, first function, first analysis is wrong, the rest of it's going to be wrong. So if the foundation is we can enjoy this material world as individual entities, this world is all that there is, there's no explanation. Like people live in the cities, you don't see the stars at night. I was recently we were in Maine and Vermont, and then when the sun goes down, you look up in the sky, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stars out there. Those of us living in the cities, the sun goes down, you just see all the neon lights. Right, Chaitanya Prabhu? You see the bank lights and the church lights and the city lights. You don't see anything else, which adds to the illusion that everything's here. But when you're in a place where the sky actually gets dark, there's so many stars. And it's a natural function of the human intelligence to think, wow, what's behind this all? How is this possibly functioning? It's so vast, it's so intricate, it's so complicated. Just like there's a devotee in New Vrindavan, Mataji lady, Vaishnavi, and she's a physics professor. And I've asked her sometimes, well, because generally materialistic people try to make us think if you're intelligent, you're not going to accept that there's any God. Because, I mean, it's nice that it's nice you people sing and dance, and it makes you feel better. That's a very good thing. But we intelligent people, we're going to put our energy elsewhere. But if that's what you need, that's your crutch, that's okay. So I was asking her, how is it you're a professor of physics? How is it you can believe in God? Playing the devil's advocate. Everybody knows that intelligent people don't accept God. So how is it you're big at mathematics and physics? How is it you're teaching these, but you still believe in God? I met another devotee recently, also was a professor of some science. But they were saying because it's too complicated. Even the slightest analysis, littlest analysis you can see, the only reasonable explanation to the complexity is there's some intelligence behind it. It's too sophisticated. Just like driving downtown yesterday, you think, oh, Chicago's so nice. There's the beaches, some parts of the city. There's the beaches and the playgrounds, and oh, they designed that flower garden so nicely, and here's all this the different lanes of traffic, and you can get on here and off. Obviously, some very sophisticated intelligence. Even they made a lot of mistakes. There's so much intelligence behind it. Just one little small city, one little street. How much has to go into that? And the fact the lights go on and off at the right time. Just like there was this horrible deaths in Maui, this horrible fire in Hawaii the last week or so. So many people have died. I saw one of the things they're complaining about. Why didn't they turn off the electrical power sooner? Because somehow that contributed to the fires. They should have shut the whole. One of the things they're complaining about. Why didn't the people in charge do that properly? Well, what does that mean? That means there's some intelligence should have understood the situation and planned for it and made adjustments. And if they didn't do that, they're at fault. So that also points out we expect anything complicated like that. There's intelligence, there's thoughtfulness, there's someone that should know what there is to do, which is some small system of the electrical. Who here cares about the electrical system in Maui? It's such an insignificant part of one country, one state within one country, within one planet, within all those millions of stars. But even that has so much intelligence there, so much intricate design. So thoughtful people see like that it's so intricate. There must be some designer. There must be some intelligence behind it. This is clear. And we can see that the nature. Without that, we also have this evidence that people are just left fighting as little independent units, thinking the whole purpose is for me to just control as much as I can. But then added to that is the fact that we see the people that are so-called successful at controlling, they're not any happier. That's one of those other little dilemmas. You work in a big office. There's probably many, many successful people. Some of the most successful people, they're the most unhappy. Isn't it in your business too, I'm sure? Probably some of the biggest construction companies. Everybody knows the boss is nasty. Nobody wants to work for that company because he's such a mean person. Why is he a mean person? He's wealthy, he's famous, he's powerful, he's influential. He has all the things that everybody's chasing. He should be happy. And if they don't make you happy, why chase them? That's our simple question. We stand on the corner, we hand out people, we hand out unchanting Hare Krishnas, or Beyond Birth and Death, or Introduction to Bhagavad Gita, because it asks people that simple question. Why are you chasing things that you see all around you don't make anybody happy? Why in the world would you chase those things? And oftentimes they say, no, 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 I don't want to hear this. Why? Overwhelmed by desire and hate. I want it so badly, I can't think about anything else. It's like it's described, right? 3 classes of intelligence. Intelligent person can learn by hearing. So they hear that the material world can't satisfy you. They say, okay, let me look for something else. The next class of intelligent people, I hear it doesn't make me happy, but I see it, but I have to experiment. I have to experience it myself, and then I realize, okay, this doesn't satisfy me. The third class has that experience, but goes on again and again, chewing the chewed. Let's try it again. Let's try it differently. Try it this way. So therefore, they go from birth to birth, body to body, species to species, planet to planet. Throughout, Krishna is so kind. You can explore the whole universe. Suddenly we should think, we look up in the sky, we should think, wow, God's created this whole place. I can go anywhere I want to. He's so kind. But at the end, I'll come back to the real, if I'm, by His grace, and at some point in time, I'll come back to the realization, actually, none of this is sufficient. Because the soul has an unlimited desire for relationship, for love, for connection, for service. Our desires are unlimited. So we need the unlimited person. Nothing limited can satisfy us. So this particular purport is really wonderful because this is answering that question. Well, if there is a designer, and if there is something higher and some other purpose for us to achieve, how is it we don't see it? Sometimes people say, well, Prabhupada would mention this often. I guess he ran into people with this argument many times. If there's a God, then why can't I see Him? And sometimes Prabhupada would give the example. It's there from the Bhagavatam, I believe. The closest thing to your eye is your eyelid. Who's seen the inside of your eyelid? It's the closest thing to your eye, but you can't see it. So our sensors are so unlimited, we can't even see that. There's an office just on the other side of this room. I haven't been in there on this trip. Sometimes I come and it's neat and clean. Other times I've been there, it's pretty messy. I have no idea how neat or clean or messy that office is because there's a little wall in between. So if something's so close as the wall and I can't see it, how can I presume to think that I can see God? So Lord Shiva here is giving this very nice analogy. Because everything we see in this world can actually, it's as we described yesterday, there's 2 purposes. One is Krishna's fulfilling our desire to try to enjoy separately from Him. But secondly, it's also education for us. So this nice analogy is there, the clouds. So the sun is there. The sun is the source of the energy in this material world. If there's no sun, the plants die. If there's no plants, all the other species die. So the sun is the source of the energy. By the sun, the water is evaporating and is forming the clouds. And then the clouds themselves, they appear to cover the sun. But one who's intelligent understands that actually the clouds themselves, as described, as we know, the clouds are caused by the sun. And the sun illuminates everything, even though when you can't see it. So in the same way, Lord Shiva is glorifying Krishna, how you are so powerful and your energies are so miraculous. You actually are the source of everything, material and spiritual, the jivas as well as the material energy, and of course the whole spiritual realm. But within this world, you manifest the material nature, you manifest the jivas, you manifest the illusion, and by your power, by your potency, the jivas can actually understand you, get out of illusion, the same way the sun ultimately can evaporate the clouds. So it's a very, very profound analogy for us to try to understand how Krishna's energy are working, and therefore describe their purport. Yet it is God alone who reveals to us his covering potency. So there's one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, and he probably makes this point many places, that, and it gets back to what I said, this initial understanding of so many different spiritual traditions. We're here, Vaishnava philosophy particularly emphasizes, we're here because our misdirected desires. So in this purport, Prabhupada describes everything is up to the effort of the jiva. And then he says, I don't know the exact sentence structure. And thus, by the grace of God, he is delivered. Which is interesting because it's kind of a contradiction. Because like some philosophies will say, well, by your own endeavor, you can become like material world. You lift yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes they'll say by your meditation, by your sadhana, by your austerity, you can lift yourself out of the material energy. Other traditions will say, no, it's only by the grace of the divinity. It's only by God's grace. Jesus can save you. Nothing else can help you. Right? You just said, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not by works. It's only by faith. You have to surrender to Jesus. So there's like, it all depends on God, which ultimately does, but they'll say it all depends. It's just God's grace or it's my own endeavor. Vaishnava philosophy is the synthesis of those two. It totally depends upon Krishna's grace for me to get out of this material world. I can't do it on my own. And Krishna's reciprocating with my desire. So ultimately, it's Kishore Kishori's mercy on us to take us out of the material world. But if we're thinking, Kishore Kishori, please keep me in this material world, he's not going to take us out of this material world. He's fulfilling, right? He is the self-sufficient philosopher who's been satisfying everyone's desire since time immemorial. Ishopanishad. That's his role. That's his position. He's the self-sufficient. He's self-sufficient. He's been fulfilling everyone's desire, all of our desires, since time immemorial. So he'll fulfill our desire to get out if we want to get out. Just like it described the sun. The sun is there for us to see, but if you stay inside and you close the doors and you put on your eye shades, you close yourself in a closet, you say, there's no sun. But there is a sun, can't you see? So we have to apply our energies to awaken our connection with Krishna, to awaken our sincerity of prayerfulness to Krishna, and thus to request the Lord to bless us with his grace, to free us from material coverings. And he is the self-sufficient philosopher. It's by his grace. He may choose to do so. He may not choose to do so. Right? That's Lord Chaitanya's prayer, right? You can embrace me or you can ignore me. Now, Mahaprabhu is demonstrating this as the deepest manifestation or expression of love. I have so much love and affection. I'm so surrendered to you. Whatever you want to do with me, you can. But we also understand it's a deep philosophical point for those of us trying to get free from material energy. Krishna's in control. You're the controller. You can lift me out or you can keep me here if you want to. And we understand he wants to get us out. That's his desire. He sends the pure devotees. Just like GBC a few years ago, there was some discussion. Who's the deliverer? Some of our friends from some of the breakaway groups from ISKCON, they'll say, Prabhupada's the deliverer. He's the exclusive deliverer. ISKCON says Prabhupada's our founder Acharya. He is the deliverer, but ultimately Krishna's the deliverer. God's the deliverer. And he works through the Diksha Guru. He works through the Siksha Guru. He works through the holy name. He works through the Prashadam. He works through the Shastra. These are all different delivering agents of the Lord. Just like sometimes you meet people, they'll come to a temple for the first time, and they seem to know so much, and they seem very sincere, but they've never been to a temple before. Maybe they haven't even read a book, but they seem to know so much and they seem to be somewhat a little Krishna conscious the first time there. Yes, and what happened? They won't use these terms, but they'll say, basically, I met some bloop devotee or some devotee that went away from Krishna, hasn't been coming to the temple, hasn't been practicing for 20 years, but still they gave me some Krishna consciousness. So in that way, Krishna is working through that person. And we know sometimes, many times, people, they'll come to the temple and they'll say, yeah, I've been reading the books of Prabhupada. You go, what? Prabhupada's. You mean Prabhupada? Oh, that's how you pronounce it. Oh, I didn't know. I've never been with anybody. I just been reading these books. I bought this book or I found this book, isn't it? Or sometimes you meet devotees, they've been listening to Krishna conscious programs for weeks or months or sometimes years. They never know there was a temple. Somehow that information never came to them. But still through that hearing, they're awakening their Krishna consciousness. So Krishna manifests in so many different ways, but we have to make the conscious endeavor to to show him our sincerity and that we want to be the opportunity to be reconnected with him. And then we want to do that in this lifetime, we want to do that at the end of this lifetime. And in this way, we understand, just like the sun, Krishna is there. When we go outside, we should think just like the sun. Sometimes I see the sun. This Mataji had a nice question yesterday. Sometimes the sun appears, sometimes the sun doesn't appear, but it's still there. So sometimes we feel Krishna's presence a little more. Sometimes we don't feel Krishna's presence so much. Sometimes we come to the kirtan and we just feel so ecstatic. We just want to jump up and down. Other times you feel like gravity. What happened? The gravitational force has increased 3 times this morning. And just moving side to side is a little difficult. So those things, they come and go. The influence of the material nature. But Krishna explains, I think in the 17th chapter, the one who is unattached to illumination and detached, when these things, they come and go, we're still under the influence of modes of material nature. We're not disturbed by those. We're not distracted by those. We go on in our service, and it becomes our, what is the term for our lawful right? What's the term? Rightful claim. What's the Sanskrit term? Dayabhag? Dayabhag. Yeah, like Prabhupada says, just like the sun, in traditional patriarchal system, the son inherits all of the wealth, so it becomes our rightful claim. Dear Krishna, I've given everything, please take me home. But always remember, Krishna is in control, and he's reciprocating with us. So we have to purify our desires, associate with devotees, purify our desires. In this way, help the whole world and help ourselves. Just like Srila Prabhupada, his own Guru Maharaj told him, he said, I want you to preach in English. He said, if you do this, this will do good for you and do good for the world. So in the same way, Krishna consciousness is so nice. We do good for others by helping share Krishna consciousness. It's the best thing we can do for ourselves also. So we can stop. I was asked to speak for 25 minutes, and I was good. Normally I go way too long. So some questions, or we can have a little discussion. What's your name? What's his name? Navaneet. Sounds like Navadweep. Are you initiated, bro? So whenever you get initiated, you should suggest to your Guru Maharaj, maybe my name should become Navadweep. And that way, Navadweep Das. That way, everyone won't be confused with my new name. Even your mother won't mind, because she'll still say the same thing, but she won't know. Yeah, nice. Thanks for falling asleep and waking up and reminding me that I also struggle sometimes. We have to try to modes there. You have a question?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a very nice class. So I have a question regarding, like, sometimes you explain, like, we jump in the kirtan and we sometimes we say don't want to jump. But Prabhupada says, like, um, even if you are not enthusiastic, you know, just act enthusiastic, you will become enthusiastic.
Yes.
So how to how to make like enthusiastic, real enthusiastic, for though even though we are doing the same thing regularly, like Mangalarti, chanting everything, like how to act, because sometimes we don't like to act, we want to
How do we do it?
how do we make it, it's saying fake it till make it.
Yeah, that's a nice material version that we can dovetail in Krishna service. Um, I mean, there's a couple things. One is, we have to push ourselves a little bit. Anything in the material world, you have to push, right? Just like I was hoping to see you there yesterday. Well, I had to work. So sometimes you got to push yourself. You got to go to work on days you don't want to. You got to go do things you don't want to. You have to meet people you don't want to, even in our secular occupations. So sometimes in Christian consciousness too, we may not be feeling so much spontaneous taste, but we push ourselves. Uh, and part of that, I was just thinking about this morning. Um, one way we keep our enthusiasm, we have to step back and think about things. We have to see things, right? Jnana chakshus. We have to see through the eyes of scripture, and we have to see things through the knowledge we've learned. So somebody may come here and think, oh, it's nice, they're chanting and dancing in front of their icons, you know. But we have to pull back and think, wait a minute. Krishna explains, and all the great acharyas explain, that the Lord himself personally comes in the form of the deity. And Lord Chaitanya is there. Lord Chaitanya has come particularly to give the process of chanting the holy name, which is the best process in this age to awaken who we are, our connection with Krishna, our love of God, to realize I'm not this body. And isn't it amazing? The whole world is full of people who are sitting in rush hour traffic or sleeping off some sinful activities they did last night. And here it is at 4:30 or 7:30 or Sunday at 6. I'm actually able to come and stand in front of the deity and pray and see them, and they see me, and I'm participating in the best process for the whole world. And wow, that's worth dancing. So sometimes we have to kind of, particularly keep things in that process. I remember as a new devotee, I've never seen the quote, but we were told, Prabhupada said, if you understood your position, you'd run from service to service to service. I don't know if that's a Prabhupada Uvacha or a temple commander Uvacha, but either way, it makes sense, you know. If we see things properly, just like sometimes I know myself, I'm such a fallen person, but I'll sit and sometimes it's like, okay, I'm hungry, eat, and run. But the reason we say prayers and the reason we sit with devotees and the reason we try to serve things nicely, in part, is to help us think this is Krishna Prasadam. Like Prabhupada, Prabhupada always would eat alone, maybe sometimes different, but it was a deep meditation for Prabhupada. He wasn't, sometimes we have to do business, talk to so many people, but he would sit quietly and take prasadam because he's with Krishna. So we should also stop and think, and it enhances the experience so much. Think like this actually, wow, Kishori ate this. This isn't just something that just popped out of nowhere. Devotees went and they bought boga, and devotees unpacked the boga, and devotees chopped up the boga, and devotees cooked the boga, and devotees offered it to the Lord, and the Lord. Then it was transferred off the plate, and then it comes to me. And it's Krishna Prasadam. So let me appreciate Krishna tasted this, etc., like that. So we should think like that. We should try to remember. If we see things like that in a more appreciative mood, then we realize how fortunate we are, and we will run from service to service to service. So I think sometimes if we feel like, okay, I'm not feeling so energetic, we should think, okay, some days there may be, okay, I'm a little sick today, or the weather got colder, or what can be done. But also we can kind of step back a little bit and keep things in proper perspective. Even to think there's 8,400,000 species. Out of all those species, there's what, 400,000 human species. Out of those, there's only a few that actually have some type of religious expression. Out of all of that, there's only a few that are really serious about their spiritual practice. Out of that, there's a few people that have come in contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Out of that, there's a few people that have taken up very seriously. Out of that, there's a few of us that are here this morning chanting or cleaning the floor or dressed in at or whatever. Wow, am I fortunate? Right? Just like if someone gets if you get a scholarship. I know there's one devotee, young lady in East Coast in Delaware. Her mom's a dentist, and she really, really wants to be a dentist. And she applied to this school and that school, and there was one she really, 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 really wanted to get into, and they were the last ones to get in, and she got in. So I just know she's going to be in the mood every moment. Wow, am I fortunate? The other students may be thinking, I don't like this professor, or I don't like the classroom, or I don't like this book. But she's thinking, no, this is a special opportunity. I want to take advantage of this. So in the same way, we should think like that. Prabhupada said we should think. There's a very beautiful lecture he gave about deity worship, and he said, very heavy. He said if we're not careful, we'll think, oh, my guru has left me this burden of taking care of these deities, like that. So he said we have to be very careful. Any flower will do. Just like I was thinking again this morning. Sometimes, like yesterday in the parade, so many devotees did so much. I had a little service that's trying to get people to stand in line, you know. And a lot of times it's like, why are you bothering us, But so I was asking people, should I keep bothering them? No, it looks good. Okay, so keep stand in line, stand in line, stand in line. But it makes a difference. So because the quality, we're so small. What can we offer quantity for Krishna? We can't. What's our quantity? But the quality we can offer. So making sure that there's fresh flowers, to make sure that the room is nicely cleaned. Just like this morning, like Kishore's crown. I mean, the deities are all dressed beautifully, but that I particularly noticed that's a style I don't remember seeing before, like the three loops of the pearls and then the flowers inside. That's a lot of detail. And somebody could just think, just put a crown on. Come on, it's late. I got stuff to do. No, it's Krishna. Let me dress him nicely. So the same way, made me think everybody's gone home, the kitchen's not clean. Just forget it. No, it's for Krishna. Do it nicely. I'm cleaning a tray. It's for Krishna. Everything we do, we should think every single thing, every little thing, every big thing, every middle thing. We go to work, when we come to the temple, when we're dealing with our family, when we're dealing with our friends, whether by ourselves, we should train ourselves to be thinking. And it'll become spontaneous eventually. No, it's for Krishna. It's all for Krishna. Let me be attentive.
Thank you, bro.
Okay. That was a long answer too. Okay, one more and then we'll quit. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, you had one left from yesterday.
Yes, Prabhu. That's what I'm having in my list. So, uh, today's
I was
class.
hoping you'd look it up in the 24 hours you've had. But since you didn't, you can ask me. I'll try.
So, yesterday we were discussing about Krishna is, the source of Narayan.
The source of Narayan.
Narayan, and kind of example which you have given yesterday. Similar thing happened with me and my colleague. So in the Bhagavad
Oh,
Gita,
same discussion.
yeah, and then he was from Madhva Sampradaya, and he said, how can Prabhupada write that Narayana is, Krishna is the source of Narayan, whereas Narayana is the everything. So a good point what you were saying is, everyone, whether it is Christianity, Muslim, or this or that, everybody focusing on only one kind of thought. Then I was thinking, even sometimes ISKCON devotees also does that kind of things with other people and they put them off. So, what do you suggest? Like Madhvas are having different understanding. Everybody is having different understanding. Then, what do you say? What should be the level of preaching to them, not hurting them? How do you suggest such things? Sometimes it becomes so fanatical that people say, "Oh, ISKCON." No, not at all. These people are crazy brainwashers. So, any thoughts, Prabhu? How to avoid such things in preaching?
Yeah. There's one shloka that says one should keep one's mala and one's ishtadev and something else secret. It's part of the disciple course. I don't remember. I don't know the shloka, but so one's ishtadev, one's mala, one's guru. Okay, thank you. Should be kept secret. Now, so what does that mean? Keep it secret. What's the idea behind that? And how do we deal with? We know, like, there's a one nice example. Ramanujacharya, famous story, right? His Guru Maharaj said, "Here's the mantra, but it's secret. Don't tell anybody. This mantra is so powerful, can deliver the whole world, but don't tell anybody." So he went out to the most public place he could find, I think on the top of a building, as I've heard, and just was chanting, "Please chant this mantra," right? And then later his Guru chastised him, and then he told him why, because he was thinking this can liberate the world. I want everybody to know. And then he gave him his mercy, embraced him, said, you really understood. So we should have the enthusiasm to share what we have learned by the grace of Guru and Parampara, Sadhu. We should be enthusiastic to share that. That's utsaha. That's one of the most important manifestations of our enthusiasm. We just want to share it. But the problem sometimes comes, I want to share the fact that I'm really good because I have this knowledge. You know, it becomes like I'm better than you because I know something you know. I'm saved, you're not. I'm initiated, you're not. I'm this, you're not. You know, it's another expression of false ego. It's moving in the right direction for sure, but it's not so mature. So we should be enthusiastic to share, and at the same time sensitive how much people can take. For instance, like yesterday, I was distributing books for a short time, and a lot of people, some people you give them a book, they're like, some people I watched, there was one child, and I was wondering maybe he had some type of, some kind of challenging situation. Devotees gave him, I was hoping I could get my phone, my camera quick enough. Devotees gave him one of these little books. He put it against his chest like this. He was just like, he was ecstatic. He's just maybe like a 7-year-old kid. And I was thinking maybe, he's autistic or has some challenge because he was a little over the top. But then again, I was thinking, whatever his challenge might be, wow, that's the perfection. He's like ecstatic to get this book with Krishna's picture on one side and Prabhupada's picture on another side. So how receptive that child was. And that wasn't someone I approached, but I just noticed that during the prayer. And then when I was distributing a little bit, some people, like, they run over, can I have that? Other people, you offer to them with a smile, they'll say, okay. Other people say, thank you. Other people, I don't want that. A few people, not many, they won't even look at you. They're so determined. Some people, like with a big cross, oh, I want it. And other people are completely material, I don't want it. So we have to try to present Krishna enthusiastically and with purity and humility, and also understand people's capacity to take is different. So let's say you get in a discussion with your friend who wants to worship Lord Narayan and doesn't like the way that we are exclusively, we emphasize Krishna, or other people under the Hindu communities like, well, why don't you guys don't even talk about the demigods, so how come we can't come and do Durga Puja at your temple or whatever? So sometimes they really want to understand, what is your idea behind that? You explain it to them nicely, like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, actually, it is a fact. It is Krishna that spoke the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? It's not Lord Narayan. When he says, mom, 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 again and again, me, aham, 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 it is I. But it was Krishna speaking, wasn't it? So little things like that, they may like to hear that. In Bhagavan, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, you give them different Shastric references. But other people, they don't want to hear that. They're not ready to hear that. So on the one hand, just help them take the next step. And on the other hand, if somebody is legitimately, like Prabhupada said, we haven't come to convert Christians to Hindus and this and that. Our goal is to help people awaken love of God. So if somebody, on the one hand, if somebody's following some bona fide religious spiritual practice, we're not trying to convince everybody you have to join ISKCON. We just want them to be serious in their practice. So if some people want to hear, some people don't. The ones that want to hear, try to give them in a dose that they can take. They don't want to hear so much, give them prashada. They don't want to hear so much, invite them to the kirtan. They don't want to, whatever. Whatever they're coming from, we can give them in a specific amount. Be careful, it's not my false ego trying to like show how good I am. We meet a lot of people from different traditions like that. They want to shove their thing in your face. It's not so much because they want to share the joy they have, it's because they want to show you how fallen you are, which makes them feel more elevated. So we have to be very, very careful of that. And then also appreciate. So one, give people what they can take. Two, make sure it's not motivated by your own false ego. And three, appreciate whatever genuine enthusiasm for particular practice they might have. I mean, even in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, some devotees, their devotees are Ram, not Krishna. I mean, some devotees, even the higher realms, devotees have different rasas. The cowherd boys, I don't think they necessarily want to become a parent of Krishna. They are fixed in their rasa with Krishna. So there's many different levels, but I think the basic thing with most people is encourage them to take the next step towards Krishna. And if they're very fixed in this particular understanding, that's, help them be more serious in their practice. Is that okay? Yeah. I mean, like I have a thing. Um, my son Gorvani was traveling recently and was someplace, and some Orthodox Jewish man came up to him and was, I don't know all their names, they have like their little thread they chant on. He was doing some rituals and try to purify him and benefit him. And Gaurav said, wow, thank you very much. Now, those are my people over there chanting. Why don't you come with me? And thank you for the blessing. Why don't you come with me and I can share with you our blessing? No. But he offered some blessing in his tradition. That's service to the Vaishnava. That's service. Thank you for the service. Now let me reciprocate. No, I don't want to reciprocate. Okay. Other people like, wow, yeah, let's reciprocate. Some people like, well, here's my book. Wow, can I have one of your, here's my book. Well, great, here's my book, What mantra do you chant? Oh, nice. What mantra do you chant? Like that. Here's why I'm a vegetarian. Here's why I'm a vegetarian because I think it's really good for the environment. Wow, that's fantastic. I should remember that too. Here's why I'm a vegetarian, etc., etc., etc. So, depends on the time, place, and circumstance. Prabhupada said again and again and again. It's in the Shastra. Time, place, and circumstance. So we have to be experts. What's the best time, place, and circumstance? And right now it's time to take prasadam. Okay? So we'll stop there. Thank you all very much. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I'm actually leaving today. We're going to be in Chicago, but we're attending this event downtown. And because I'm helping with this one other organization, so they have a lot of meetings, so they're providing for a place for us to stay downtown. So I'll be in Chicago meditating on Kishori, and aspiring for all your association, but I won't be here. So thank you for your association and for your warm hospitality. And please take good care of the Lord. And you have a lot of service. You have the whole city of Chicago to save. And when you've done that, then Illinois. When you've done that, then the whole Midwestern United States. So don't get comfortable. There's too much to do. Yeah, I have to be down for some meeting at 12. Yeah.